So excited to be here this morning. Good morning, everybody. I am in LA, so it's 9 o'clock in the morning here. So I hope everybody who is in Canada or wherever you are in the world is having a good day or morning so far. Let's get started. We have a lot to get through. I'm so excited that PHE decided to go online. I was supposed to be at the conference in Canada presenting on just empowered play. So the goal today is to try and give you a very shortened version of what that will look like, and then how to convert that and integrate that with your curriculum and move it online. So I want to make sure that you guys get what you want out of today. I've spent many years, as Faye kind of described in my bio, honing this plan and constructing this construct. So I'm excited to share it with you. And it's a lot of information, like I said, so I'm going to go through it very fast. There's a handout provided to help support. There's going to be some polling questions. There'll be some opportunities, as she mentioned, to ask questions at the end. So, and maybe we'll have time to play. I'm hoping. I'm going to watch the clock. I only have about 40 minutes to talk and get through everything. So let's see how it goes. All right, so let's get this screen share started. All right, Empowered Play Online. Again, my name is Farrah Zweig. I'm in LA. And before we say what is empowered play, let's talk about what does it mean to be empowered? What does the word empowered mean? And it's a word that a lot of people are using nowadays, but at its core, it's giving authority or power to someone or something and making them feel stronger and more confident. And what else do we want to do for our students than provide them with that opportunity? It's a greater feeling of well-being and better health and feeling empowered and putting meaning to the actions that they're doing. It also gives them a sense of positivity on the road to happiness. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is what is empowered play in and of itself. You know, as I mentioned, I was going to be there talking about this and implementing it into your classroom or your gym. Oh, and let's launch the first polling question. I want to see who we have out there. I saw we have quite a number of people out there. I want to know what age you guys are working with. So I know that it's K through 12. And I don't know if my screen share just got lost because my screen changed. So can you guys still see my screen? Faye?
I think they're seeing the polling question right now, so we'll just wait for them to submit the result first.
Okay, so I'll just keep talking since we don't have a lot of time. Take just a second to just share with me what age you guys are working with. Again, I know it's about K through 12, so just want to make sure that I'm responding to all of the different attendees that we have here today. I'm going to aim to share information, whether you're teaching kindergarten or 12th grade or anything in the middle, about how to connect these concepts to those ages and grades. So, so just finishing up talking about the definition of empowerment, it's just giving your students a sense of competency and positivity so that they can gain the skills that you're trying to teach them and use them in their best way. So I think let's just give one more moment so that we make sure we've got plenty of time to get on with everything.
It looks like 75% of you have responded, and those of you who have not yet responded, go ahead and submit your response now, and we'll close the poll in a few moments.
All right, so while we're just finishing up, let's move on to what are the benefits of play and what is play. So as I've kind of gotten more into play research and talking to more people who are in that industry, it's very clear that although there is a definition of play, there's a Webster's definition of play, everyone kind of has their own. And mine is process-based, self-chosen, self-directed, imaginative, and active. For me, if I'm talking about play, it's active play, and it's how we're getting our students up and moving constantly with intention. All right, Faye, how are we doing?
Okay, I think we're going to close the poll right now, and let me share the result with everyone.
Okay. All right,
It
great. So we do have
seems
a little
that,
bit of everybody.
yeah.
Okay.
And I will hand it back over to Farrah.
All right. Let me get this back up here. Okay, so just quickly through the benefits of play. I'm sure most of you are already familiar with these. We're talking about executive functioning skills and social, emotional, behavioral skills, and we're going to get a little bit more in depth into all of these as we move through the components of empowered play. And so my definition of my empowered play is that it embraces the whole child through a combination of social, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive skills fused with physical literacy, character strengths, and positive psychology to achieve lifelong playful movement. A lot of stuff going on in that sentence, right? So let's break it down a little bit. Every student is unique in how they learn, practice, experience, and implement skills and lessons offered in any movement class. So implementing empowered play, as I mentioned, it's a construct, it's not a curriculum. So my goal today is to help you take whatever you're doing, because you're all amazing. You're here today to learn more, to improve your skills, to be a better teacher and coach for your students. And how can I help you and how can I be supportive? So my goal is to empower you to be able to improve your skills. And what we're going to do is be a little introspective this morning. So we're going to do one more poll here, talking about intention and goal setting. So as I mentioned, I want to make sure that you're getting out of today what you need. There's, I don't know, I think I saw close to 200 people out there. So I have my intention of what I want to relay to you, but you're all in a unique situation, and I really want to make sure that everybody's getting what they came for here, or as close as possible. You can always reach out to me afterwards, and I'm happy to be continuously helpful. So just you take a moment, and why are you here? Write it down. What do you need? What do you want to walk away from this presentation? And our poll is gonna asking you how you feel. Are you frustrated or are you excited? So Faye can launch that next question. So are you excited to try? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, our second polling questions, as you can see, we're asking, how do you feel about online learning? And the options are on your screen, and we'll give it a few moments for people to select the ones that they feel most appropriate to describe themselves.
So yeah, are you excited to try new things? And you could be more than one thing, right? You can be excited and scared all at the same time. This is a brand new world that we're living in, but we're going to talk about positive intention and reframing of how you might be approaching online learning. And while you can be excited to be trying something new, it can also be really scary. Maybe the technology is a concern for you, logistics might be a concern, so it's okay. Also mixed emotions, that option is in there too. Maybe you're something that I didn't even list. So just try to give a couple different options, and let's see how people are feeling.
Okay, it looks like we have close to 80% of people have responded, so we'll give it maybe another 20 seconds.
All right. So after this, we're going to start getting into the components of empowered play. And as I mentioned in the definition, it's character strengths, positive psychology, social, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive development, as well as physical literacy. So the first one we're going to get into is character strengths. So let's see, how's our poll doing here?
Okay, so we're now closing the poll, and let me share the result with everyone.
All right. Okay. Awesome. I'm excited to see that many of you are excited. All right, and then hopefully by the end, the frustration and the fear a little bit will subside as we go through a little bit more of helpful ways to implement your curriculum. All right, so let's get into character strengths. All right, who are you? What thoughts and feelings do you have? What are your strengths, your challenges? And that goes into how are you feeling? So we just, let's get into that mindset of what do you feel are your strong points about moving into online learning? What do you feel are your challenges? And when we ask these questions of ourselves, it gives us an opportunity to not just be introspective of ourselves, but to see how do we approach difficulties, challenges, and successes. Because if we take what we do and we're successful, then we can use those same components, apply them to where the challenges are, and we can make improvements there. And that's what we're asking of our students. And so oftentimes if we're able to relate what issues we're having, then it helps the student understand better what they can do to improve their own challenges and struggles. So character strengths are authentic, joyful, energizing. It's not about what you can do, but it's about who you are. And what I found is oftentimes, sometimes you know what you're good at, but you don't know the why. And really what we're going to be doing today, talking about empowered play, is understanding the why. And the why is not just going to help your students improve moving, but it's also going to help you support them going through this process. This trauma is really what a lot of the kids are feeling, whether or not they know it now. Even if they know that they're responding that way, that's what we're going through. So we're going to explore how improving strengths that they already have that are well known, and maybe strengths that they have that are not as well built, and we're going to help them improve that foundation so they can improve their self-confidence and self-awareness. If I know that I'm brave, then I can tap into that. But if I don't know that yet about myself, maybe I haven't been put into that position, or maybe I just haven't allowed myself to access that part of me, I don't know that it's there. All right, it also helps us understand why everybody is different. If you think about your classes, kids getting frustrated with other kids because they just don't understand. Again, if your students are more in tune with who they are and what they need, it gives them the opportunity to be more empathetic. And that's a lot of what we need from each other right now. So you guys are just going to do this on your own at home, no polling this time. I want you guys just to check out, this is the character strengths list. There's 24 character strengths. They're divided into 6 different categories. Everybody has all of these character strengths to varying degrees. And as I was kind of reviewing this over with myself last night, I was trying to come up with some sort of image to describe this. And I like to use the word spark and shine, and so it made me think of fire. And so kind of how I started thinking about these character strengths is that they're big sticks and little sticks, and they all come together into this like beautiful bonfire. And so the ones that you are more familiar with, as I mentioned, maybe it's bravery. For a lot of us, it's probably leadership because of the roles that we're in. And if those are your bigger sticks, then they get more opportunity to get utilized. But if you have sticks that are smaller, maybe it's curiosity or hope, especially right now, those might be character strengths that you want to work on. And so if you're able to recognize that in yourself, then again, you'll be able to support your students when you see some sort of a behavioral issue or a skill challenge, to start thinking of why are they struggling? Why are they having this issue? So go ahead and take a second and check that out. I didn't want you guys to share it, but I've now discovered I can't see my chat. So if you guys want to share for each other, then that's great. And you can maybe share with me afterwards. So, so character strengths feed into a field of research called positive psychology. And that focuses on enabling those strengths to give the individuals and communities the opportunity to thrive. That's what we want, right? We want to help our students think more positively. It's linked to better health, longer life, and greater well-being. We want them to seek pleasure, pursue their goals, search for meaning outside themselves, and express their appreciation, enjoy experiences, live in the moment, and take care of yourself, right? That's what we're doing right now. So we're all in this moment together. We are engaging fully and grateful to be here and be a part of this group. And you're taking time for yourself, right, to do this and be here and to improve your teaching skills. And the most important thing to remember about character strengths is it's not about categorizing things to say I'm really good at this thing or I'm not good at this thing. As I mentioned in earlier, is that how do you know you're brave if you've never been presented with that challenge? How do you know that you can persevere if you've never wanted to quit? And so it's finding the appreciation and benefits of being challenged that is going to help you improve as a person. We want to help these students become their best selves. So how are we going to support them in doing that? So I want to play a game, but I don't know if we have enough time. So we'll come back to that. I may have another game planned later on, so maybe we'll have more time at the end, but I want to make sure that we get through everything. So, so the next component to empowered play is compassionate communication. And it's a theory that's built on that we all have needs, basic needs that need to be met. And if you are aware of what you need, then you can express your feelings with clarity and self-responsibility. If you get into a disagreement with your friend or your partner or your student, it helps you understand, what did you need? Why did you get upset? Did you need to be heard, or did you not feel loved? You know, whatever it might be. And oftentimes, if we're thinking about our students, and it doesn't really matter what age they are, those are two very basic components that are really important to your students. And that in and of itself can lead to frustration and issues in the classroom, again, between students, between you and a student. And so being able to express what you need is really important. On the other side of that is being able to listen. So again, we go back to this concept of empathy. And if you are able to share what you need and you want somebody else to hear that, then you also have to be willing to actively listen to what their needs are. And again, be introspective and say, okay, how can I support my student or this other teacher in improving? So it facilitates mutual beneficial outcomes, and that emerges from the quality of relationships. So being able to be more open with what you need and how you can support your students and in their learning. Then we will utilize these four concepts. It's consciousness, language, communication skills, and means of influence. So if you use compassion, collaboration, courage, and authenticity, if that's where you start. So again, you know, we started this off thinking about what's my intention, what's my goal of being here, right? If you stay in that space about what do you want to be doing, then it helps you stay in an understanding space. And that will help you utilize the best language so that you're offering your students what they need in terms of supporting them. So if you discover their why, then you're able to ask them the right questions or share the right words. And again, we don't have enough time to kind of go through everything, but compassionate communication and conscious discipline, which we're going to get into in just a couple of minutes, it does provide you with that language. So if this is something that is of interest to you, there is a lot more learning and reading. And as I mentioned, I'm happy to talk to you guys more. You know, you can ask questions at the end, you can reach out to me afterwards, but there's a lot more that goes into these different components of empowered play. So being able to communicate better. And this is an opportunity to be powerful, be empowered with others, not power over others. So it's an entirely new way of perceiving sometimes how we communicate with people, especially when we're getting into some sort of a conflict. So conscious discipline works off of safety, connection, and problem solving. And I was telling Faye beforehand, I kept trying to figure out how I could pare this down and make sure that I'm giving enough time to what is empowered play, because I do feel like the components are important to apply to your online education, as it'll be a really supportive opportunity for your students. But some of the things I couldn't cut out. So we're going to talk about conscious discipline, and it's social emotional learning, provides self-regulation, and teaches vital life skills. And so when you connect that with the character strengths, you're assisting your students in being able to handle really any situation. So whatever's happening, and it's an important discipline to use right now. So it's a behavioral management system. You learn how to maintain your composure. And this is for you as much as it is for your students. So understanding your triggers, and again, if you have older students, being able to relay those issues and your challenges, oftentimes that creates better connections with your students. And that's a lot of what we're doing here with online learning. If you're doing nothing else, you are connecting with your students. And that is kind of the challenge for me today, is that I literally can't even see myself on the screen, by the way. So being able to connect with your students is really the number one thing. However you decide is the best way for you to do that authentically, everything else you do from there is going to be icing on the cake. All right. So you develop new ways to calm yourself, and then that gives you the opportunity to respond rather than react to negativity and stress. So think about a time where you got frustrated with a student. I know it doesn't happen very often, but think about when you got frustrated with a student and how you reacted. Don't even think about what it was. It doesn't even matter what the student did. How did you react, and how did you feel about your reaction, right? Lots of different things happen, especially, working with the different ages, that, it could trigger something in you. Maybe it's a student who did the same thing over and over again. Maybe you were just having a rough day and it was your last class or whatever it might be, right? A lot of it is so we walk away feeling good about how we handle the situation. We're not going to be able to control any of our students. We are trying to give them the best education and support that we can, but ultimately we can only do the best that we can, providing them, with that support. So this is one of the components to conscious discipline. It's building a school family. So if we support our students in impulse control, again, that goes back to the triggers and the reacting, it'll give them a willingness to learn and provide us with their attention. So again, I'm going through this very quickly because I want to make sure I have enough time for everything. So if you have more questions on it, again, feel free to reach out to me. Conscious discipline also asks that you find a safe space, and that helps teach self-regulation. And so I've shared a couple of ideas here. These are physical safe spaces. It could be a sweatshirt or a beanbag or a little box of toys. It can even be visualization, right? So if your student doesn't have anywhere to go, it's that concept of a happy place, right? So it could be a physical object. It could just be a place that you go to in your head. So real quick, we're just going to go through kind of how it works. So you want to acknowledge your feelings once you get triggered. And so once you can determine, okay, I am angry or frustrated or upset or whatever that word is by what's happening right now, by what my student is doing, conscious discipline uses calming techniques of breathing is really their main one. And then acknowledging that feeling. And then by taking that even 1 second break of taking that breath, you can choose to reframe what is happening. And you can go from, I am angry and I'm going to be reactive, to what is the actual need that you're not getting met, right? You want to be heard. That's a need. It's okay that you're the adult and they're the child. It doesn't mean that that's not something that you need to be fulfilled. And what does that mean that the child needs to be doing? The child needs to be listening. And so that is the solution that you can provide that child. So we always want to frame things in what we want, right? If you see children running down a hallway, if you say don't run, what do they hear? they hear run. So if you tell them what they want, then that's the word that they hear. So we would tell the running children to walk. We would tell the talking child to listen, not don't talk, because that is the need that we want. We want them to listen. We want them to hear what we have to say. All right, and connections. So there's 4 critical elements. It's eye contact, presence, touch, and playfulness. Obviously, the one we can't do right now is physical touch, but we'll talk about connecting with parents and how we can include that component. But you can still have eye contact. You're still present, you're paying attention, you're not off doing something else, looking in a bunch of different directions, and you can still make it playful. All right, I'm sorry, I don't know if we have time to do the play break today, but that was really important. Oh, here's another one. I don't know if we're gonna have time for it, so so hopefully maybe at the end we'll get lucky. So let's get into some of the developmental components. So the benefits of play in regards to social and behavioral development is you learn how to negotiate group dynamics, collaborate, compromise, and handle others' feelings and be able to share your own. So again, going into the compassionate communication and the conscious discipline, being fully aware of your needs, your strengths, so that you can use those to your benefit, and also be able to hear what others need from you. Provides for creative expression and imaginations to run wild. We need these things more than ever, right? We are gonna have to be creative. We are gonna have to use our imaginations right now, and we're gonna be asking the same of our students, creating new worlds, unique ideas, solutions to challenges that we didn't even know was a challenge. So, and then the other thing, and we're going to talk about how to kind of manage different sized groups, because I didn't have a chance to ask all the questions, but presuming maybe some of you are teaching really large classes, solo play still exists, even in your online classes. So if you're running a really big class and there's a student who's maybe a little bit more shy, and perhaps they're just sitting there watching, it's still an opportunity for them to learn social cues. So even though this construct is usually talking about a child sitting on a playground watching other students, you still have that interaction. And then obviously there's a lot of solo play going on inside of their houses, but you know, that's okay too. It gives them the opportunity to be creative. So lots of free play going on right now too, presumably. And that builds self-confidence and self-esteem and allows them to experiment with various emotions. And because of all the different things that are going on right now, these kids are experiencing all these different emotions. And what a great way to experience and imagine all these different emotions so that they can even just develop these pretend worlds where they can figure out how to move through those emotions, not ignore them, but understand them, and then build emotional strength and stability. And hopefully that turns into the opportunities for spontaneity, humor, positivity, again, reframing, reinvigorating what's going on right now and figuring out how to use that in a positive way. Play allows for vulnerability. Uncertainty, risk, emotional exposure leads to one being able to be courageous and adventurous. Again, what we're asking of you guys right now. This is really vulnerable. Me talking into my camera, not being able to see anybody, that's being vulnerable. But being able to be open about what your imperfections or your inadequacies are reminds everybody that we're connected. You know, oftentimes students think that teachers don't understand them. And, you know, it's like, well, I wasn't 8 once, or I wasn't 15 once, right? We all went through it in our own way. And again, being able to relate and share with your students your strengths, your challenges, gives them the opportunity to understand where you're coming from and for them to be able to connect with you a little bit better. So you can ask for help in regards to how to be vulnerable. You can look for opportunities to learn. This is also a vulnerable opportunity for you guys, right? You're here, you're being honest about, okay, I need some help, I need to get better. Even if you're already awesome, right? We can always grow. I'm always loving to learn from my fellow teachers as well. Be willing to change your habits, and that's a big one that we're going to be talking about. And be willing to manifest, right? What do you want? How do you want to get there? And the last one is cognitive development. So play helps children develop intrinsic interests, make decisions, exert self-control, regulate their emotions, make friends, and experience joy. And we're going to talk real quick about classroom connection, because another opportunity that you might have is joining other teachers. So again, I don't know what your different setups look like. Maybe you're running your own PE classes online. Maybe you have an opportunity at our school. As Faye mentioned, I teach at a private school here, and I pop into other classes. So I'm creating videos for my students and I pop into their classes, and most of the time I'm actually going along with their themes, but we're also going to talk about themes that you guys can create in your classes. Here I connected with the STEAM teacher, and this is preschool. So what we wanted to teach these kids was about force production and throwing mechanics and splatter patterns, and so to a very scaled back degree, obviously, because they're in preschool, but you start to build those connections in the brain, and that's the goal of a lot of what we're doing also through play, is you're opening these doors for them to learn new words and improve their literacy skills. And then this is an experiment. We asked them what they thought would happen when they dipped in aluminum. We just rolled aluminum foil into a ball, dipped it in paint. They stood at the different lines and threw. So, you know, if you're working with older students, then this is a great opportunity to talk about all those different components and keep layering on. And again, connecting with your science or your math or your STEAM teacher, whatever you might have at your school, then this is a great way to build on that. So this is also a great way to take something that you're doing in class and extend it to a home project. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but these are ways that you can keep building on your curriculum, and you don't have to keep coming up with a bunch of new ideas, that you can, you know, create these streams of information. So last, real quick, we're going to talk about physical literacy, because I know we're running out of time, and I feel like probably a lot of you are familiar with this concept. Actually, funny enough, in America, really no one knows about this. So I just want to make sure that I covered it just in case real quick, but I do feel confident that a lot of you are familiar with this concept. So it's the mastering of fundamental movement and sports skills, but it's so much more than that, right? It helps the student read their environment and make appropriate decisions. The best way that it's been described to me, and I've been using this, and it seems to be very helpful to everybody who I share it with, is that if you teach a kid a single sport, whatever it might be, it's like you're teaching them how to read one book. But if you teach them the alphabet, then you're teaching them how to read all the books. And so physical literacy is the alphabet of movement. And so we're not just giving them the skills, we're sharing with them the confidence and the desire to be able to move and play any game that they want to play. So they can move efficiently, creatively, enthusiastically, right? It's not just about having the skills, it's about wanting to use them. You feel so good about being able to throw or kick or run or jump that you just want to be playful all the time. And not just for yourself, you want to inspire others. And I love physical literacy so much because it's also all encompassing of all the different components of whole child development. So motivation and confidence, physical competence, knowledge and understanding, and engagement in physical activities for life. So we are starting to run out of time, so I just want to make sure that I get to everything. Before I start talking about moving to online classes, you know what, Faye, I'm a little concerned about the time, so I'm actually going to skip doing the last poll, and then hopefully we'll do it at the end. So lots of different choices about how to move your classes online. We're on GoToMeeting, my school uses Zoom. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. Before you get in front of your students, practice with your friends, practice with your kid if you have them in your house. Just make sure that you know what you're doing, because the last thing that you want to be doing when you're in front of your students trying to utilize your curriculum is trying to play and figure out how to turn the music on, or how to share your screen, or how to do the breakout rooms. So make sure that you're well versed in what you're doing. So let's get into what are you going to do and how are you going to do it. All right, so you've got your curriculum. We're not trying to mess with your curriculum, right? We're trying to figure out how to take it and how to apply it online in the most effective way possible. So here are various ways that you could implement play. Again, this works in the classroom and it also works online. You just got to start thinking differently. So if we're talking about unstructured play, right, that would be you thinking about kids just running free, maybe on the field and that kind of a thing. But we're really just talking about play for the purpose of play. No specific learning objective. And fun ways to start integrating that is looking at scavenger hunts or bingo or anything really where you're just having them move with no necessary kind of end in sight, right? Running in place, that kind of a thing. Of course, they're always gaining something beneficial from whatever we're doing, but sometimes it's play just for the sake of play. And then we have structured more play with a purpose. That would be playing more of a game like red light, green light, right? We're talking about younger kids working on stopping and starting, right? Also teaches self-regulation. And one of the games that we were going to play is a clap stomp game, which actually encompasses everything, but I utilize it to help teach math skills. And so it's actually really fun. I even do it with adults. So it's a great game. Maybe we'll get to play if we have a couple minutes at the end. But rough and tumble is a challenge, but it's really important for their development. So figuring out if there's a way where they can even just jump on cushions or blankets or mats or anything like that. Guided and imaginative play, as you can see, this is actually my daughter. I pulled up the artificial intelligence animals, and so I did this for my students, but she acted out the different animals. But as we'll get to in just a moment, you need visuals. It's got to be visually interesting. It's only so interesting to look at your coach for a certain amount of time. So, this is a visual guide. We can also create images, and you can use different props. Again, it's challenging to know what your students have available or not, whether they have manipulatives, whatever that may be, a ball, a frisbee, a bat, and we'll talk about how to be creative in making sure that your students have what they need. You can still utilize competitive and non-competitive pieces in your classes. So minute to win it challenges. If you're playing bingo, they can win bingo. So nothing wrong with using competition, right? It does push students to drive themselves maybe a little bit faster, bring forth their best effort, and there's no need for it to be feared, right? It teaches being a good sport, having self-esteem. Sometimes you lose, teaches resilience, and that's okay. Independent versus group. We're going to talk about how you can send things home for them to do versus doing things all together in the group where they're building that connection. Extended versus short bouts. Again, if you're doing your own class, then that'll be the extended play. Short bouts, even brain breaks, which is what I was hoping to squeeze in today, but I'm glad because we did not have time for them. But you could even jump into another teacher's class and, surprise them and, teach part of your curriculum there just as a brain break, which I'm sure the other teachers might appreciate. And then inside versus outside. Most of your students will probably be inside, but again, sending those at-home challenges will be a nice opportunity to send them outside. That gives more opportunities for decision making. It's less controlled outside, so they can practice things inside and then take them outside for their at-home challenges. And you just want to make sure that you're including all of your students, whatever that word means. Again, even if it's from they don't have any balls at their house to, whatever their individualized needs are, you just want to be thoughtful and make sure that you're allowing your curriculum and your programming to support all of your students. All right, so benefits of online learning. All right, we are going to go over time. It's just going to happen, or me talking at least. So it's a special opportunity to expand play. If you have students who don't participate as well in your class, this is a great opportunity to try and reach those kids and promote play online. Again, I don't know how often you're seeing your students, even if you're in real life. What does that even look like? And if you feel like there's more things that they can do at home and more connections that you can make even outside of the classroom, whenever you go back, take these skills and all of these new components that you're learning and keep using them. It's all going to be beneficial to making you a more efficient, more effective teacher and a coach. It'll give you new ways to engage your students, again, and thinking creatively, you know, paper plates, paper towel rolls. I've used paper shopping bags, lots of stuff with hampers and socks and stuffed animals. So, you know, I didn't even go to my school to get any of my equipment. I didn't want any of it. I wanted to be as authentic as possible when saying to my students, okay, we're going to practice throwing and catching. And if that's for my younger students, maybe I'm using a balloon. But if they don't have a balloon, I grabbed one of my gallon Ziploc bags and I blew it up. And it worked. It wasn't 100%, but it was better than saying if you don't have a balloon, you don't have a balloon, you know? And if your student is struggling, then maybe that's where they need to start, and saying, well, just go get a ball. Maybe that doesn't work. So just trying to think creatively. Also, the other benefit about being at home is you don't have that same social issue to kind of deal with. You know, there are the social benefits to play, but especially with those of you who are working with middle and high school students, I'm sure there's kids who don't participate because their friends aren't participating, and you've taken that piece away. And so those kids might be more willing to not just participate, but be playful and silly and, you know, play these crazy games that you might come up with. And I was hoping that this slide was on the next page, because as you can see, you also can be willing to be more playful and silly. You still want to be authentic, but again, we're trying to reinvigorate our curriculum, not reinvent it. So we're not throwing it out the window. We're just trying to see how we can acknowledge our challenges and put a positive perspective on it. Always be interactive. You can be showing things, you can be telling them, you know, what you're doing. I chose to put on different hats and a jacket, pretending to be the different animals. I chose to put on the hats of the different animals. So you're still providing that high quality physical education for your students. You're just doing it in this new crazy format. You want to keep your students moving. And then you also want to focus on your direct and indirect instruction. So again, direct is where you're in front of your students, and indirect are the games you're going to send at home. So number one is connection. Utilize the compassionate communication, utilize their character strengths, utilize their struggles to connect with them, build relationships. A couple of things that you really want to make sure that you have in your classes is a routine, not a schedule, but a routine. If your students came in every day and you had music playing and they just started running, do that. Just have music on your computer. You can start your class a couple minutes early if that's an option, and you can even have a workout on your screen. You know, if you've got older students, perhaps that would work, and you can say 10 jumping jacks and 10 high knees and whatever it might be, but have that same routine. Kids thrive on expectations, understanding. You need to set the guidelines and expectations for your students so that they know we're online, but this is still what I expect from you. This is how we functioned in school. This is how we functioned in class. I have those same expectations for you. And when you give them that, then they can rise. And that's what we want. We want to empower them to rise up to be their best selves. So if you have the option, you can utilize breakout rooms. If you don't know what they are, you can ask me, you can ask a friend. It's a way to split up your class within your call in order to create smaller groups. Be creative as possible. Again, it can be whatever you define as being creative, and still be authentic. So whether that's a silly hat, if you like doing art, if you like doing music, tap into what are all the other things that you love doing. Who are you that makes you such an awesome person, and utilize those things, throw them in. I added in art, you know, to the STEAM project, and that can be something that's fun for a child who may not necessarily usually enjoy throwing. So that's a way to integrate more fun and more connection with those students who typically wouldn't want to participate in that kind of an activity. Keep it simple. Don't give too many instructions. You can start to layer, especially if you're teaching older kids and they can remember concepts from one class to another. But the younger you are, the simpler you keep it, the more fun it's going to be. With your asks, be general. Like I said, we don't know what our students have in their houses. And so, I ask for them to have things that are round or a particular color. And this way, whatever they have, we'll make it work. If you ask for something round, that could even be cutting out a circle out of a piece of paper. So it also gives them the opportunity to be creative. Okay, I don't have a ball, but I can go get something else that's round. So stay high energy, right? It's something that we all kind of need to have as PE teachers. But again, everything's got to be up even a little bit higher. And then over plan. If you are in your class and you scheduled whatever your plan was going to be for the day, and you've got a couple extra minutes, we typically have backup plans. All right, they're going to play tag, they're going to play, whatever. You kind of have those things already set up in your head. You may not have that right now, and so if you're left with 5, even 10 minutes left on your PE class Zoom call, you don't want to be sitting there being like, I don't know what to do right now. So make sure you overplan or create your backup list. A few more tips and tools. As I said, be energetic, over animated, but still be authentically you. So don't try and turn into somebody else, right? Because kids are so smart. That's why I love working with kids, because you have to be authentic, because they can see right through you trying to pretend to be someone or something that you're not. I find a lot of success saying my kids' names. So if I say, Faye, you're doing such a wonderful job of throwing that ball up in the air. I see you watching it with your eyes, right? Still be specific. We still don't want to, we don't want to start throwing out that good job, those kinds of nondescript, ways of encouraging students, because they're not really encouraging, right? We want to be specific. We want to tell them what we see them doing well. And the fact that they hear us noticing what they're doing lets them know that even though I'm through a screen, I'm still connecting with them. I'm still watching them. And if you have a student who's not participating and they hear you call out another kid's name, well, maybe they want you to call their name, or maybe they realize, oh my gosh, wait, my teacher's actually watching me. They didn't just tell me to do something, and then they turned their attention away. You can also spotlight yourself. That's helpful because this way the students are mostly looking at you. Sometimes kids walk away, or a variety of things can happen, and then they're staring at empty boxes, or if a kid's not participating, right? Same kind of mood that creates in class. Again, everything is heightened online. So if you spotlight yourself, or you can spotlight a student, another way that you can do it if that works out well in your classes, then you can try that. Again, props, music, you could bring a special guest in, you can go and be a special guest. It's also helpful if you send your information beforehand. What equipment do you want your students to have? If you're going to be extending it, you might want to send that beforehand. Again, that kind of just depends on your age and how your classes function. But if you say we're going to start practicing throwing in class, and then that's going to extend to this project that we're going to do outside, then that will help them start thinking about, okay, maybe I do want to understand how this all works in class because I really want to do this project at home. That sounds like a lot of fun. Younger kids, telling stories using digital books or videos can also be really helpful. Again, the more you can engage them on the screen, right? Looking at your face is wonderful, but the props and the costumes and all these other fun things that you can do will help engage them. And you can have themes. So themes can go 2 ways. You can focus on throwing, and then you can pull in all these different ways of practicing the throwing. You can do it with kicking and jumping, and you can integrate art, and you can integrate music, and that can be kind of your theme for the week. And you can also have themes for each class. It could be superhero day or college day, or, again, depending on your age and what your kids like, color day. Just another way of just keeping up that spirit, right? That's what we really want to be able to do. So what doesn't work is a lot of talking, too many instructions, too much equipment required, not enough space, right? We have to be cognizant about how much space our students have. Some are in living rooms, some I usually call it like a yoga mat worth of space. So we really have to be aware that we start on the smaller scale, and then we build up from there. You know, one student said, I live in an apartment and I can't make a lot of noise. And so I said, okay, I'll start off with that. If you can't jump, then, you know, you can do squats instead. And if you are able to jump, then here's, you know, the activity, and come up with a plan so that you can include all of your students. Don't be too quiet. Again, you want to be nice and loud, and be able to project again, just like you would in your class. And again, we talked about the concern of under planning. The at-home experiences, you want to keep your kids engaged in between classes, not just because you want to keep them active, but you want them to keep coming back to your classes, right? So it's all circular. If you do something fun and then you say go home and do something fun and then come back and do the fun thing all together, you can have the kids teach. If you're doing the breakout rooms and you're working with older students, you can have the kids teach each other. If you want to have them come up with an art project that they're doing at home that's connected, they show their art. If they want to have them come up with a game, they can teach the game. So there's a lot of ways where if you keep engaging your students in and out of class, it helps keep them coming back to class feeling good about what they're doing. And so it, again, provides that intrinsic value of why do I want to play? Why do I want to be active? And why do I want to motivate and inspire you? So we're creating this amazing culture of empowered and active play. You can also utilize different components of social media. There's so many apps out there. I've just got a couple different ones. You've got Pic Collage and Seesaw. Oh, and one other thing that I didn't mention yet is in terms of themes, if you want to be able to even heighten what you're teaching your students, we taught, I have my company, we taught a class called Steamroll, and it was a way of building physiology education into active play. So we would teach about the different body parts, whether it's body parts or systems, so circulatory system, respiratory system, and we would teach about those, the different parts of the body that affected, and then we would do an activity. So it was exercise physiology for kids, really. So understanding, you know, what are the different systems of the body if I exercise, how does that affect me in the short term and in the long term? So you're providing them with more understanding of the why am I doing this, not just what am I doing. Doing one-on-one meetings with students can also be helpful out of class if they're struggling. If you can send boxes of activities home, again, instructions, or, you know, if your PTA can help you and you can send every kid a jump rope, you know, whatever your school allows you to do. And then, you know, just a couple of games here, but we are seriously out of time. My apologies for going over, but I felt really confident that it was going to happen. So, Faye, if we have time to maybe take a question or two.
Okay, so we did receive some questions, and we can now begin answering some of these questions. But just as a reminder, you can still submit questions throughout the Q&A session, and you will find the question pane in your control panel. But our first question is from Kayla, and she is looking for suggestions when the student hates being physically active. So she said, I find this is a struggle in junior high to high school. Some students just don't like being active. I listen to what they have to say, but just don't know where to go from here. I don't know if the things I say really help my students find a connection with being active and how much fun it can be.
You know, some of what we're trying to instill in our students is not what they're going to do today. It's something that they might do in a year or 5 years. And I work a lot with preschool kids, and their parents come to me and they've already decided when their kids are like 3, 4 years old that they're not athletes, which kills me to no end, because I'm like, how do you even define what that means? And just because you don't think your kid's going to become a professional athlete doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to develop the skills to be successful. And so when I look at students, and the reason that I love physical literacy and talking about, you know, fundamental movement and sports skills, is because I am trying to instill in my students the confidence and the ability to use those skills even if they don't want to use them today. They might go to an after school program where they want to use it, or they might even be already in college and they want to, that's when they decide they want to pick up a recreational sport, or everyone in their dorm is going to go out and play basketball. That's when they're going to remind themselves and be like, wait a second, I have agility skills, I have throwing skills, I have communication and teamwork skills, because you've played games and you've provided them the opportunity to practice those skills, and you're just giving them tiny little nuggets. The other thing that you can try, again, because we're at home and you can try and individualize these things for your students, is say, what does interest you? You know, again, if this is a student who likes music, who likes art, if, you know, they don't enjoy being physically active altogether, what can they do to enjoy that? You know, can they bring a book to life? You know, how can you get their creative juices flowing about what is it that you enjoy? Why do you enjoy it? And then having them delve in, especially at that middle school age, they can really start to look at, you know, what are their strengths? One of the reasons that I love working with middle school girls is because that was the time where I struggled the most. And I think a lot of us do. And I'm sorry, I don't remember if you said that you kind of related back to your struggles, but perhaps if that is something that would work to open up to your student a little bit, whatever might be appropriate, that they can understand where you're coming from. You know, being a personal trainer first, and then going into physical education, you're always hearing people be like, well, I'm never going to be as good, you know, or I'm never going to be as strong. And that's not the goal. The goal is to just finding what's going to inspire and motivate your student to want to be active. So using some of these concepts, again, the character strengths, what are their values, what are their needs, what are their joys, and then working off of those and building. You're not trying to recreate your student. You're trying to get them to want to enjoy it. So working from the inside out.
Okay, so we have another question from Stacy, and she's wondering where you got these character strengths from. I guess she's asking for the reference, and also the reference for compassionate communication. So are you drawing these from collaborative communication, or even nonviolent communication?
So compassionate communication has been around since the 60s. It's also called nonviolent communication. I choose to use the phrase compassionate communication. So that's a theory that's been developed. The character strengths is also something that's been researched for many years. Again, it's utilized by a variety of different disciplines. So I did not make those things up. I'm happy to send you the references if you want to delve deeper into it. It's pretty much how I came into it. When I started teaching preschool, we learned about conscious discipline, and I thought it was amazing. And then I learned about compassionate communication, and I thought it was even more amazing. And that is how I came up with this concept of empowered play, is that if we keep layering all these different amazing components and ideas that are out there, then we can create a more organic and holistic way of working with our students that, again, just go beyond trying to help them be better at moving, but understand the why and the how of that movement. So yes, I'm happy to share. Those 24 character strengths are well established and researched, and they're used, again, as I mentioned, by positive psychology. And if you just Google them, you can actually take like an online quiz and it'll shoot it out to you to tell you what yours are. So it gives you the opportunity to get a better understanding of who you are and what your strengths are and how you can relate that back to your students.
Okay, I think that's a wrap. And Farrah, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, thank you guys so much for having me. Again, I hope that you guys got something about what you were looking for in terms of coming to the session this morning. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. My information is on the handout. You're welcome to email me. I'm on Instagram and all those other great things. So you can check out for more resources. There's tons of amazing PE teachers out there who are being very specific about, you know, how to move it. So today we kind of looked at a global view in terms of how to move your curriculum online. But if you're looking for more specific recommendations, there's tons of great resources out there. Teachers Pay Teachers, all these different places where you can get more specific help and guidance in terms of how to move specific things online.
All right. Thank you so much, Farrah, and
Thank
you everyone for attending today's webinar. If you have any other questions, as Farrah said, you can send her an email, and you can also send an email to conference@phcanada.ca. We'll make sure to pass that through. And once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's session, and also a copy of the handout will be included in that email. And lastly, on behalf of PHE Canada, our presenters and partners, Human Kinetics and National Ballet School, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.